Good evening, I'm Alison Moss. A damning report's been published into a States of Jersey fund that's potentially lost millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. According to the report, the Jersey Innovation Fund, which has now been suspended, may have been linked to criminal activity. The Chief Minister says he's shocked and angry at the way the scheme's been handled. We'll be hearing from him live in a moment. But first, Lakshmi Gopal reports.
This is one of the companies that got a loan from the Jersey Innovation Fund. But the start-up software firm Logfiller never paid back the money and has now disappeared. And it's not the only one. It's emerged 6 of the 7 companies given loans totalling £2 million of taxpayers' money are in arrears. Now, the idea of the Jersey Innovation Fund, when it was set up under the Economic Development Department 4 years ago, was to support new business ideas. But reports found serious failings in how it was run. So, who's responsible? One of those running it was the Chief Executive of Economic Development, Mike King. You may remember him from the scandal around business class flights to South Africa. Well, last week he resigned with 6 months' pay, that's £70,000, and hasn't responded to our calls since this report came out. Elsewhere in the document, the author also hints at criminal links to the fund, saying, "I have a duty to report suspected criminal activity. I'm considering making such a report detailing my concerns about the conduct of third parties." The fund will be investigated by the Public Accounts Committee, who are scathing.
In my time as Chairman of Public Accounts and my time as a politician, this is the worst that I've seen. There's been a complete absence of competent administration here. The terms of reference that are agreed by the states have simply not been followed. There are no set key performance indicators to even measure the companies that were lent these sums. So that really is very, very disappointing and really quite distressing.
Well, that was Lakshmi Gopal reporting. Joining me in the studio now is the Chief Minister, Minister Ian Gorst. Chief Minister, the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee there was calling it disappointing. This report isn't easy reading. The criticism says it's not fit for purpose. More should have been done to protect public money. This was £5 million worth of taxpayers' money, the Innovation Fund. So has it been a disaster?
Well, the report is damning. It shows shocking failures in management, in governance, in administration. So perhaps that is a word that could be used. Only 2 million of the 5 million has been spent. There's been no new loans during 2015. But I was angered and shocked and found it completely unacceptable what had not taken place when I read the report.
Well, who do you blame for this?
Well, the report is quite clear. It deals with failings of administration, but I'm not sufficiently happy with that. I've asked the Chief Executive to also look to see whether there are disciplinary measures that need to be taken. He's also reviewing the other grant-funded organisations that the States gives money to make sure that these failings are not replicated there. On top of that, this is a report about administration, but I want to make sure that the politicians involved have not added to or been involved in the conclusions that the report says, and I'm instigating a investigation that will be without fear or favour, and if it says action should be taken, then action will be taken.
Can the public trust this government with their money?
Well, as we sit here this evening, there are questions which still need to be asked. And until we have the answers to those questions, I can't be satisfied that the governance and management is in place when it comes to money being given to third parties. And it's only this extra piece of work that will tell us whether these failings are more widespread and will rebuild trust.
Very briefly, the idea of an innovation fund is very good for local entrepreneurs. Do you imagine in the future a different type of innovation fund could exist?
Well, the report was quite clear. The innovation fund is a good idea. It's just the management of it that failed. And so there are £3 million roughly left in the innovation fund. We will need to think about how we could apply that, perhaps in smaller amounts to different types of companies. But that will be a decision for the states to make in due course. Innovation is important. It's important that our economy innovates and diversifies, and this fund was supposed to be helping that to happen.
Chief Minister, Senator Ian Gorst, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
An internal investigation has been launched by Guernsey's bus